to Season 2, Episode 16 of the Film Bros Championship Podcast. I am Tim, and with me is my co-host Patrick. How you doing, buddy?
Like a fish talking to a fucking oil tanker.
That is my favorite line.
Is it?
Without it, that is my favorite. That's the one that got the largest cackle from me for this non-horror movie of a movie we're reviewing today.
Yeah, I was led astray, run amok. It's not a horror movie.
It's not. I mean,
even calling it a thriller is a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, right? Because it's like, I don't know. I'm curious so it popped up on some list, I guess, that you came up on.
Wikipedia, and I had seen other people's, there was this one critic who did this, I'm watching 100 horror movies in 100 days or whatever, and he listed this movie, and he said he really liked it. So I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I'll remember that for later, especially since Graham Greene is in it, and that's a dude I like.
Yeah.
And he's the best part of this movie.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was like, okay, yeah, all right, here we go. Let's go for it. And I was like, oh, this is kind of like a bad X-Files episode.
Yeah, I get at least a little bit towards the end of sorts. It starts to get that way because there almost seems to be more of a supernatural thing, maybe possibly towards
there
the end.
is definitely.
Yeah, but it's weird how it's very very subtle. It's very subtle how they do it. So
I guess
it's barely there, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's just one of those no monster this week, huh? We're doing one of these.
Yeah.
All right.
If anything, too, it's probably like a Scully only episode too, or something.
No, it's definitely just Mulder screwing around in the woods with the Native
just
Americans.
Mulder. They give Mulder some attractive woman to partner up with.
Oh, almost definitely.
Fair enough.
And then Scully's there at the end, how was your vacation? Or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gillian Anderson not available that week or whatever.
Later seasons when they're filming in L.A.
No, this is definitely early because we're in Canada.
That's true.
Yeah.
I never realized how evil the Mounties could be. Well, I guess they're not the Mounties, but you'd be I've never really seen Canadian police and the Canadian government be the bad guys before. It is wild stuff.
Like my man Tom said in this movie, and I think he was speaking for all Americans. All police are Mounties.
Yeah, it's just weird. I don't know if I ever really, I guess because obviously not really in that culture, Canadian culture. So it's just kind of weird to be like, oh, it's usually my government that's the bad guys.
No. There's plenty of crappy Canadians too. We're all right.
Yeah, right. There's bad people all around, I guess.
Speaking of X-Files, we do have an X-Files alumni in this movie, which made me very happy.
It's not, what's his name? The chief? What is it? Wilford?
Yeah, Wilf. Yeah.
Wilf. It's Wilf. Wilf was is it the same dude that was in all those?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he played Albert Hosteen, the guy who did the translating and helped out Mulder when he was in a coma and did his own sweat lodge thing.
Yeah. That was the same one. Wow.
Same guy.
So the X-Files ones must be a bit later, though, right?
I feel like X-Files comes out actually maybe this year.
Yeah, but when he popped up on X-Files was a little bit later, right?
Yeah, I think it was season 2 or...
Yeah.
X-Files started in... Oh, I'm sorry. X-Files started in 93. Okay, so it is all a bit later.
Okay. Makes sense. It computes.
Yeah. It's an early 90s show.
Whose pick is this again?
'Twas mine.
Just yours. Okay.
'Twas mine.
So I guess give us the rundown on this non-horror movie.
You're never going to let that one go.
It's a you know what? We did do this before. We're I'm not so sure this is an action movie in season 1. And it turned out to be an action movie, and we really liked it and enjoyed it. So
yeah, it worked out both times.
Yeah, this is the one time it didn't really work out.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah,
it certainly didn't. And it's not. I don't think it's a bad movie. It's okay.
It's a movie that I will never be inclined to watch again.
Exactly. But it has like one great performance that makes me like, if you like this person, you want to see him do something different, worth seeing.
Fair enough.
And I ranked it suitably near other movies that I felt the exact same way about during this season. So, this movie, a white lawyer finds his values shaken when he is paired with an angry indigenous activist who insists on kidnapping the head of a logging company to teach him the price of his destruction.
But it was his idea.
I guess.
He makes him, like, he reminds him of that routinely throughout it. Well, yeah, let's do your idea. Let's do your thing.
Yeah, where this movie lands is just a really weird place. I'm like, what? But,
yep.
So I guess we should get into it.
Yeah, I guess let's just get into it.
Hero. Yeah. Our hero is pale-faced tribal lawyer Peter McGuire.
Yeah.
Who is representing an Indian tribe protesting the building of a road being built only for the purpose of cutting down trees on native land, and he lost the case handedly.
Yeah.
Just got his butt kicked in Canadian court.
Yeah, that's the vibe you get.
Yeah.
Like, he really didn't even, like... He keeps saying you have a chance, but then he eventually gets broken down. Like, yeah.
It's like, well, we can appeal. We'll appeal. And then he's like, it's never going to work.
Yeah. I mean, I do have to say it's an interesting... They really do it interesting. He is a flawed hero. And he gets called out on his BS quite a lot throughout the movie, which I did appreciate that.
Yeah. So this movie opens with Peter taking a seaplane to the Clearcut site to give the tribe the bad news about losing the case. And my man has to wade through water, climb a small hill, traverse through the woods, all while holding a briefcase, which he never uses, and drops it and loses it after he gets there.
Yeah, it becomes a thing with the little girl throughout the rest of the movie.
It turns out the briefcase has been swiped by Polly, the young native girl who helped Peter find the tribe from when he got off the plane. This will be important later.
Kind of. Wait, is she considered a side character, a sidekick?
No.
So can we talk about her lighting up a cigarette right when we meet her?
If you'd like, go ahead.
What? That's it. What? Like, she pulls it out and at first I think she just has the lighter or something at first. I'm like, huh, this is interesting. And then you see her light her up and take puffs. And you're like, whoa, this is like...
Should never go into the forest without matches, Tim.
Yeah.
I feel like you might have missed a detail in this movie because you were so, like, I don't know, disgruntled by the end. That's going to maybe kick you in the butt a little bit later.
Okay.
Peter is depressed about losing the case and is overly apologetic to Wilf, who leads the tribe.
Yeah. And the tribe is very angry. Like, it's like a prolonged when he gets to the tribe and they're having protests and getting beaten up and all that kind of stuff. He's going from person to person asking for Wilf, and like each person is basically expletives at him, yelling at him, like really like giving it to him.
Right, but when he runs into Wilf, he's got like this like Mark Rylance attitude from Bridge of Spies. It's like, it's all right, you did your best. It just takes it in stride. And eventually suggests that Peter should join him in the sweat lodge. I don't know you, Tim. I'd be utterly bored in a sweat lodge. How would you do?
That's a really good question. I am actually just like, without wanting to do the drugs. But
did they really do drugs? They didn't actually smoke anything. They kind of like moved it around their shoulder.
I don't know. I think something.
I didn't see anybody taking any peyote. I think they just like, because Peter eventually has some weird visions, and we'll get into that in a second.
I thought he took something.
I don't think he took anything. I think it's just the sweat lodge got him going.
I'm pretty sure they did something, but whether it was like they put it on their rocks, so it was something they were breathing in, or something he took, I don't quite remember. I was distracted by the Giants game on my phone while I was watching, but
Boo.
sorry. But yeah, so I'm pretty. He had to have taken something because he trips.
Well, like, just because from all the sweating and everything.
And there is a bit of a Tyler Durden thing going on.
No, there isn't. But go on.
No, because he sees him a couple of times before he even has visions.
Yes, but other people interact with Arthur
after.
besides him, so it's not.
No, he doesn't. Other people don't interact with him until after the
Right, but there's nothing
Sweat
Tyler
Lodge.
Durden about that because Tyler Durden only interacts with Edward Norton's character.
No, I get no,
That's
but
what,
that
it's not in his head.
If you but if you see, actually, for a little bit, I was thinking, is he gonna wake up getting out of the sweat lodge or something at some point in this movie?
I wondered that too. If they were going to pull that nonsense, it's like, ugh.
Because there were like the first time you see him, you don't see his face, and you see like he comes like I think it's towards the beginning of the movie. He's just his
he's
chest
at the cut
is
site.
there. And you just see his chest, and he kind of looks, and that's about it. And then I believe he pops up again before the sweat lodge, but again, you don't really see him too much, and it's in and out of the frame pretty quickly. So that's kind of what I meant with the Tyler Durden thing, because in Fight Club, right, he makes these short little appearances.
Okay.
Before he arrives. Sure. That's kind of what I meant.
He's not in his head, so it's like.
Okay.
I did think they might have gone that way at one point. But they didn't. Anyway, so like I said, Peter has these weird visions, and he sees Arthur, a man who he briefly saw at the cut site.
Yeah, he also sees some blood on some rocks and that kind of stuff. Yeah,
he sees blood on rocks, water, and he eventually lands in looks like Pet Cemetery for a second there at the end of it.
A little bit, yeah, because it looked like some like weird-looking dead tree log stuff going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fast forwarding, because honestly, a lot of the stuff that happens in between this and the next thing I want to talk about with Arthur. But Peter is bullied by Arthur, an outraged Indian, into helping him kidnap the lumber mill manager, Bud Ricketts.
Right, which was his idea.
Right. Well, so Peter first meets Arthur at the docks, and Arthur asks him, "How's it going?" And Peter tells him about how annoyed he is about everything, how angry he is, and he says, what I'd like to do is kidnap the lumber mill manager and skin him alive
and burn down the mill.
Right, but he's like he's kind of joking about it.
He's kind of joking about it, but it's out of a pure frustration with the system, and this seems
right. He's not being
the solution. I'm not going to be able to win in court, so this is what needs to happen. But like he is doing it in a way of like he is clearly joking.
Yeah, but Arthur thinks it's a good idea.
Yeah, he does the whole yeah.
So Peter meekly keeps protesting, even though Arthur doesn't really threaten Peter with any violence and doesn't even tie Peter up until later they succeed and regroup at Wolf's cabin. And it's just like, why are you just going along with this? What are you doing? It's very annoying. And he does this a lot. Like, even after he gets tied up, he eventually gets untied and just still seems like hanging around, not doing anything.
There's another character that's like, you are not tied up right now. You could go get help. Like, you could do this. You could do... Like, I think he gets reminded this a couple other times. So it does, frustrating. Like,
multiple times. Yeah, you could, do anything.
Yeah.
He's like, you should understand. It's like, oh.
Well, I guess that's kind of... I feel like that's probably what the movie's trying to do or say is this guy's not really fighting. And he's going through the motions type of deal, and this is why they lost in that court case. And if he really wanted to fight, so basically, it's trying to get him to grow some chest hair. Is I feel like is what the movie's.
Oh, he's got
to
plenty
get
of chest hair.
Yeah,
because we see that in the sweat lodge.
Yep.
Just I was thinking about this while in that sweat lodge scene. Like, this is why they mostly just put pretty people on screen, because this is just unpleasant to look at for this long. Just a bunch of guys who are not in tip-top shape in a towel. It's like,
I'm pretty sure we only see maybe 3 females tops this entire movie.
And one of those is a little girl. Yeah, and it's just...
And they're all very much clothed and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you do see a lot of shirtless men in this movie.
And nobody's in great shape. Like, no one's... And then when you're, like, sitting crisscross applesauce in a sweat lodge, there's no, like, attractive way to sit in a way that looks, like, presentable. Yeah. Everyone's just like, we're just all letting it hang out and not looking great.
Although I would say a lot of the natives, though, they don't have, like, a gut where there's like rolls or anything like that. It's all like solid gut. You know what I'm talking about?
I just mean, I do know what you mean, but it's like not like, I'm just saying it's not an attractive way. There's no like way to sit attractively in this position. No. So it's just like, we're letting things all hang out and it doesn't look good.
For sure.
So at one point while Peter and Bud Ricketts are kidnapped by Arthur, Peter gets into it with Ricketts. And I like this line where he asks Bud, "Now, you think they'll take a break for your funeral or just go double cream in their coffee?" It's like all of a sudden personality appeared out of nowhere from Peter. Like, oh, hey, look at this.
Yeah. He has a couple of moments of this, and it like it's more when he's trying to when he's talking to Ricketts and he's frustrated with Ricketts and he doesn't think he's a good person. So those are like the rare times where he like shows a little bit of something.
Yeah. Here's my thing with this character.
Yeah.
It's not particularly well written.
No.
It's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
And you needed like a really good actor to shine through for this to make this movie more watchable, and it didn't have it.
No.
This guy is a charisma vacuum.
He's a hard person to like.
Right. So you needed somebody who was likable in that role, and like this guy, you don't
voice. I'll give him that. I think he's got a cool voice to him.
I didn't get that. Okay.
But yeah, no, he's not a very likable character. He needed someone who's like backbone. He does not have charisma, as you said. But
that's why you say you needed an actor who just like kind of oozed charisma to like paper over these flaws, so you can make this performance more watchable. Yeah. And this actor just doesn't have it.
Or someone to root for with that, right? Or
yeah.
It's not great. And it's supposed to have this redemption thing where he learns to like
stand up for himself, right? Yeah. But like, if you wanted a young Canadian actor to play, like if you had gotten Kiefer Sutherland to play this part in his Nebbish, and then suddenly, what would have been a way better movie? If you'd gotten Michael J. Fox to do this part,
I think they're both way out of their price range at this point. Like they're on their
without
upswing.
a doubt.
Yeah,
without a doubt. My point though, that there were other young Canadian.
Right. I'm sure you could find one. Yeah.
This guy was not it.
Yeah. Not at all. Yeah.
So after being dragged further into this forest by Arthur decides to start building a sweat lodge, and Peter asks Arthur if he has to kill him to make this all stop.
Yeah.
And Arthur responds by presenting his knife and lodging it into a fallen tree, and he turns around and explains how to kill a man with it. Peter picks up the knife, raises it to kill, and then just like the nebbish dweeb he is, he jams it back into the fallen tree. It's like, ugh.
Yeah.
Come on, dude.
Is there... before that, so when he is reminded that he is not tied and he should run for it, like go find those hunters that we got shot at.
Yeah, I put that one in action, but yeah.
Well, I'm not. We could talk about, but I think the interaction there was interesting because he was.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it almost seemed like he was trying to. Hey, we've been kidnapped, but not sell Arthur out at the same time.
Yeah, he just wants everyone to get along. Yeah.
And it's like, what now? After everything that has happened to you and such, like, this is what you're trying to do? And again, it made it so much harder to like him again.
Yeah, I love it when he falls down during that and he like hurts his elbow. It's like he just holds it the whole time. Like, I've got an owie.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, it's a good point. Yeah,
it's like, ugh. So in the end, Wilf brings Peter and Bud back to his cabin, and Wilf and Peter are arrested by the cops. Polly is there, the little Indian girl that we mentioned earlier, and offers Peter his briefcase back. And Peter thanks Polly but says, I don't need it anymore. He then notices that Polly is wearing the same necklace as Arthur. Spooky.
Oh, yeah. See, I did miss the necklace part.
Yeah, so Polly was really Arthur all along. It's the same character. It's because Arthur is a mystical Indian spirit. We find out.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because you do see, like, the briefcase is, like, filled with all this kind of stuff. Like, this, indigenous stuff.
And junk.
Yeah. So I don't know if that was part of whatever she was trying to do, because you do kind of like see her following along a lot of times in the periphery, in a lot of shots, especially earlier on.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. I guess I totally missed the necklace thing, but that makes sense. Yeah. Especially for how it ends there with Arthur.
Blew your mind, didn't I? Like I said, it's like the ending of an episode of X-Files. You're like, not one I'm going to want to revisit.
Yeah, it's a solid point. It's a solid point. Yeah. So what did you give our hero here?
A 1.
Yeah, that's fair.
What would you give me?
No, I went 1.
Okay, good.
Yeah. There's... Again, like, I don't think he was, like...
He's not, like, annoying.
Right.
The character is annoying, but the actor isn't. But there's no... He doesn't...
The actor is fine. There's just nothing really
He's
there.
buried under this bad character.
Right.
And it's just like this. So like, I don't like this person at all.
Yeah, I get what they're trying to do, but yeah, it definitely seems to be miscasted or something. You're not giving a reason to really root for this guy at all.
No, and like the whole movie seems to be pointing to like him, like you said, taking the lesson for you. All right, let me put it down. The director says that he set out to portray the issues that he saw existing with pacifism. By forcing the viewer to consider the arguments of the characters alongside their actions, he hoped to show the viewer the complexity of these issues where good and evil is not so easily divided. I guess.
Yeah. Because you know what's, and we'll probably get it to later, because I don't know what if you put him in villain or sidekick, but
Bud?
The Ricketts.
I put him in side character.
He's way more charismatic.
He's so good. I love Michael Hogan.
He's such a better charismatic actor, and it becomes harder to hate the person I think you're supposed to hate.
I don't hate him.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get into that in a minute, because let's get to the best part of the movie, the villain.
Yeah.
So Graham Greene plays Arthur, the outraged Indian out for revenge, and he injects the movie with some much-needed charisma. Absolute highlight of this film. Oh, my God. Like, he's so... And this is a guy... You know him. You've seen him in a million things.
Yeah.
I mean, Tim and I love him from Maverick. We love him from Die Hard with a Vengeance. The list goes on and on about Graham Greene stuff. I mean... He's just recently really funny scene in Last of Us.
Yeah. It goes back to the charisma thing again.
Yeah.
Right? He's got oodles of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it becomes pretty easy to like him like right away. And even with like so what should we do? And then he gives him the answer. He goes, all right, that's good. But like the way he delivers it, it's like, it's perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah. And there's a lot of that throughout the movie. And I guess it does become kind of the problem where he's the villain, but you end up kind of rooting for him.
You definitely like him like a whole lot more than anyone else in the movie.
Yeah. I mean...
You feel like the righteous anger coming off of him.
Yeah, and I guess the where maybe other things were miscasted, this was so perfectly casted because there are points where he is asked to do and say some stuff that can be divisive, especially in the hotel room or motel room, whatever you want to say, where he starts, going in, especially on race stuff and all that kind of stuff, that could, probably rub people the wrong way or come off wrong. And I think he executes it perfectly.
So while hitching a ride across the lake on a rowboat with Wilf and Peter, Arthur chats up Peter and rolls his eyes at Peter's understanding of native culture.
Yeah.
Well, Peter tells him, well, I've read quite a few books. And Arthur's like, come on, man. Arthur tells him that Indians have an oral tradition. And then he pulls a garter snake out of the bag, bites off his head, spits it out, and tosses the snake carcass overboard and says, that's oral tradition.
That was definitely a, what?
Yeah, no, it's definitely
Moment?
WTF moment, but I'm like, well, this is a new energy. Yeah. Okay. All right.
You know what? Again, a lesser actor in this role that would have really been that would have been awful.
Oh, yeah.
As much as it really was what? It didn't make much sense, but it was like, this dude is so good. There's
always
energy.
a goofiness to him, layered with the menace. And the menace is real.
For sure.
But there's always a goofy playfulness to him that you're just you can't help but be a little bit charmed by.
Yeah, I agree with that. And remind me, I want to come back to, or come to that point in action where, in the hill where they're trying to go up the hill cliff face thing.
Yeah. That's
His
definitely
energy in that scene is awesome, and he all of a sudden becomes terrifying in that one moment. But we'll come back.
Yeah. So Arthur shows up at Peter's motel room and tells him the idea that Peter had about skinning the mill manager was a good one. So he's there to collect Peter and get his help kidnapping the mill manager and skin him alive by running him through his debarking machine at the mill.
Graphic.
Yep.
Now, that would be some horror.
It would have been. Yeah. At least just took it a little bit later. I very little bit. So Arthur kidnaps Bud Ricketts with Peter in tow and brings them back to Wilf's cabin. Peter asks what Arthur is going to do with Ricketts, and Arthur responds, I could scalp him and be a real Injun. I should be a real Injun, shouldn't I?
He does that a couple of times with the engine stuff.
It's funny. Yeah, he's the mocking way. He's like, I can't stand
he's
these
mocking
people.
with the stereotypes and everything.
Exactly, but it's just I can't stand you people. I really can't.
Yeah.
You love it.
Which is funny because we keep bringing up Maverick because that's another thing he does in Maverick quite a lot.
No joke. After I finished typing up these notes, I went onto YouTube and watched his couple of scenes that he had from Maverick. It was
that's great.
Because the way he says they make me talk like they do in the books. How white man? The way he says how white man always cracks me up. Bunch of assholes.
It's him and Gibson were actually really good together. So there was a lot of great back and forth between.
Speaking of charisma, there's a movie that just has an atomic bomb level of
everybody with charisma.
Oh my
out
God.
every pore in that whole movie.
Yeah. We got Alfred Molina here playing a villain that barely talks. Oh my God.
Yeah.
The cup runneth
Glover
over.
shows up for 2 seconds and is great.
So good. Love Maverick.
Great. Aren't you gonna look at your cards?
Ain't you gonna look at your card? Yeah. God, Jodie Foster in that movie too.
Who's also out of this world in that movie.
Yeah. All right, we gotta get back to this.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah. We need a whole podcast just talking about Maverick.
We really could. So yeah, in the scene, Ricketts offers Arthur a job at the mill, and Arthur replies like a fish talking to a fucking oil tanker. And that one got me.
That's
a good belly
chef's
love
kiss line. It is, and it's so well delivered. It's great.
It's just oozing sarcasm. It's
the way it's said, the facial expression while it's said, it's perfect.
Yeah. And then later I love Arthur mockingly doing an Indian chant before telling Peter to sit down in the canoe.
Yeah.
Ooh, wow, yeah, sit down.
Yeah. He does it a couple of times too. I have to say when they do go to the sweat lodge later, and he starts doing the chant stuff and everything, and he's he's lost his mind, I
have that particular chant written down in action because there's a little bit of gore involved in it. It's yep, I'm going to include this.
Fair enough, yeah, because it really is. But it's just some good stuff.
Yeah, it's once again Graham Greene, so good in this movie.
Yeah.
The reason to watch this movie is to watch his performance.
Yeah, I agree. If something's worth it, that would be it.
You know what? If you're a fan of this actor, which I think we both are, I don't feel sorry for watching this movie because I got to see this guy just ball out for like 100 minutes.
Yeah, if anything, it's what's
kind of confirmed all my suspicions about him over the years. Like, this guy's really good. God damn it.
I think the depressing part is like he never really got
another shot like this.
Than this.
No,
really.
Never. And it's why he calls this one of his favorite movie he ever did.
Oh, really?
His favorite role he ever did. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was just a display of his abilities, and you got a big chunk of the movie, and I feel like everything else I've seen him in, it's all been pretty bit parts and smaller roles.
Yes.
So
yeah,
I get that.
Life as a character actor.
Yeah.
So Arthur confronts a couple of hunters who Peter tries to go to for help, and Arthur says, "Do I look like a fucking moose, Elmer?"
Yes.
That one really got me too.
That is another really good one. You're right.
Arthur scares and intimidates the hunters to walk away, but not before one of the hunters gives Arthur like all of his money to bribe Arthur into letting them walk. And I gotta ask, why did this guy go hunting in the woods for moose like with like a casino bankroll in his pockets? Like there's a nuts amount of bills there.
I like how he just takes the money and just leaves his hand there, and you get some more money.
Yeah.
And then I really do love when Peter's trying to call him out about, no, well, you just gonna accept, some pocket change or whatever, and he just throws the money down.
Yeah, he starts to count it and then just throws it away. He's like,
yeah,
not interested.
But it's a good moment from him again. Like it's one of the few times where he actually gets a little turned up. Like he gets actually a little angry.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually a little insulted. That doesn't really happen that often. Usually he's pretty calm and cool.
Yeah.
Throughout everything, even in the most insane stuff, he's usually pretty calm and cool. And this is the one time where he's insulted by Peter, and he throws it down and hurls some insults back and such. And it was a good scene too from him.
How about Arthur just randomly eating a spider and looks at Ricketts and says, "Apache style."
Yeah,
that was another WTF. Like, what?
Yeah, I'm curious if that one was real. That one looked a little real.
Anyway, eventually Peter and Arthur have a fight at the end of this movie, and after Arthur is satisfied that Peter is finally willing to fight, to kill, he goes into the lake, sinks, and disappears.
Yeah.
Until eventually we figure out that him and Polly are the same person, that he really is this mythical creature that Wilf gives him a lowdown about, which I'll talk about later in side characters.
Yeah, it gives him a little smirk and yeah, you learned now. You've learned the lesson. So now I will sink.
Yeah. So before we get into action, I got to ask him.
Okay. Go for
the
it.
lesson of this movie is yeah, you should kill people.
I don't
it's
think
just
so. I don't. I mean, I get why. Yeah, I can see someone thinking that, but I don't think so. I think
because it wasn't merely fighting Arthur that made him satisfied. It was when he was willing to shoot him and kill him that he gave him
because I think
the nod of approval. Yeah.
Right, because I think towards the beginning where he's just kind of passive aggressive, well, I could do this, but I failed, and it's man, he wasn't really invested, his heart wasn't in it, he wasn't really trying everything, and I think they could tell, and I think that's
what do you think Peter does at the end of this movie, after the movie? What's his next step in life? Is he a lawyer anymore, or is he he's
keep himself
rejected
out of jail?
Has he rejected being a lawyer? He's no, I'm going to be a crime-fighting Avenger now.
Do you think he had a real Porsche or something, or a fancy car?
I mean, considering who he's representing, I doubt he got a lot of money out of that.
Well,
so I'm if he's a lost cause guy,
the other way around. So that's why
right?
I was curious.
Yeah.
How does things work in Canada? Do these kind of lawyers actually make good?
Yeah, they were mentioning like, well, he gets paid whether they win or lose. I'm like, that's not the way it works here. They only get paid if they win.
Yeah, well, yeah. Usually it's like based off of it, right?
In like when you're suing, if you're doing
Right.
like, this kind of like if you're doing like a murder trial, yeah, you get paid no matter what. But this one's like,
right. It's a civil case, so yeah.
Exactly. I'd be like, this would be only if he wins.
So that's why I'm curious if it's slightly different in Canada. Like, does that work differently? That's what I was like.
And even if like
what?
It's not the case, I'm like, this tribe does not have any money.
Clearly,
there's no casinos anywhere around here.
Yeah,
so like,
and they even
I don't think
make
he's
a
making
reference to here with our villain, where he goes like, yeah, nothing works.
And it might be just, there's no telephone, there's no...
Yeah, the sewer system's awful. Like, it's all broken. Like, nothing really works. Like, we don't... Because Rick is trying to make this argument of, like, look at all this great stuff that Western society and technology has given you. And he's like, yeah, it's all crap.
I forgot to ask about Peter. Apologies for going backwards. Well, you know what? Screw it. Let's just go to what you gave villain real quick. Before we get into the last thing for about Peter.
All right. I went 3.
So did I.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So about Peter, I just got to ask real quick. Have you ever understood like the first like 3 inches of your jacket look?
No.
That's what he does in the beginning of the movie. He's wearing a jacket.
I don't think
over
I
his
noticed,
shirt,
but I know the look.
and he
you're
has the
talking
zipper
about.
up only like 3 inches, like just to his like, not even to his belly button. I don't think. Maybe
You know
just
who
to there.
did that a lot was Arnold.
You're probably right.
Yeah.
Well, Arnold, I can understand it. That man is just all muscles, and I'm sure his chest is so
chest
large,
is
wide.
huge. Yeah.
It doesn't really fit him. But like this guy is not Arnold at all.
No.
So like, what are we doing here? What is this?
I don't know. But
Okay.
It's Canada, behind the times, and that's one thing I noticed.
This was
too,
an early
like,
90s
when
thing.
was
I just
this
wanted to see
movie
it.
filmed because like, I'm curious to film and release. Is there a little bit of a delay, or is it because it's Canada? Because it's like this movie looks older than 92.
Well, I theoretically filmed in 90. It was ready and done by 91, and didn't come out in the United States until 92.
Right. Okay.
But I think even like watching like Canadian horror movies from like the 80s and stuff, it always looks like 10 years behind everything else.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Is because it was Canadian, it's going to look a little bit more dated than it should be.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever saw like the original My Bloody Valentine, which I really
No.
enjoy. That one like looks like it was filmed like a decade before it actually was, or at least 5 years behind like American movies, the quality at the time.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
It threw me at first.
All
Especially
right.
because like the intro stuff seemed to be some of the most horror you're gonna get too for a while. Had a little Jaws-ish thing in the water and everything, and the slow to the coast. It's like, oh, this is kind of cool. But yeah,
Jaws thing in the water?
yeah, because it's kind of slow. The camera's panning through underwater stuff and looking at some of the bones and things like that were under the water with some kind of like eerier, I guess, type music.
Oh, must have missed. I might have been looking at my phone during the credits. I was like, okay,
It wasn't
scenic.
anything special.
I'm like, yeah, scenery. Okay, got it. Playing.
Yeah, I get the gist.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough.
So let's move on to action.
Yeah, not a whole lot here.
Yeah, I kind of stretched a bit.
Yeah.
So to prove Arthur's point that asking and playing nicely will get them nowhere, Arthur quietly bullies Peter into telling his noisy neighbors to quiet down.
Yep.
And after Peter gets nowhere fast, Arthur bursts into the room with a really big knife, like Rambo knife.
Yeah, it's a Rambo knife. Yeah, for sure.
Pretty much is. And Arthur threatens to kill the noisy neighbors unless Peter hog ties them with like duct tape.
Yeah, and they really like spin them around in the duct tape.
Yeah.
Get their eyes and mouth and all that kind of stuff.
This is a very handy roll of tape. Love duct
Yeah.
tape. Fixes anything and does
Duct
a lot of
tape
work in this
solves
movie.
all, man.
Yeah. So after Peter ties them up, Arthur raises a war club to brain one of the neighbors, but Peter begs them off.
Yeah,
And
this war club, by the way, is like video game like it just disappears in your item chest or whatever.
Yeah, 100%.
It's like
Like,
where did that come from? Where did it go? I don't know.
The bag he's got does not look large enough to carry this club.
Because he's wearing basically like a black t-shirt and jeans the entire movie. So it's like, where is this thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. He does have like a bag that he's like sometimes is carrying, but you see at one point there's nothing in the bag.
Yeah, and only in this beginning of this movie. Otherwise, the bag is not there. Even though he can still pull out the war club out of nowhere. He's like Q. He's just like,
yeah, it's just there. Like to me, it's like what is this item chest that you have?
Yeah. So then he going to break. Peter stops him from braining one of the guys, the noisy neighbors, and then he moves to destroy the TV with the club, but just quietly turns off the TV off with it.
Yeah, but I do like it where it's like he stops only because Peter seems to slightly grow some chest hair in that scene. Right? So he finally like is stop. He's like, okay. Like so clearly that's the goal, that's what he's trying to do. Like,
yeah, good call.
Yeah. We're getting you there. I finally got you somewhere where I need you to be. All right, let's move on. Push
not gonna
you
lie.
as far as I could go, kind of deal.
We're getting somewhere. I'm not gonna lie. I've had this fantasy multiple times while being in hotel rooms with neighbors.
Yeah, that's true. You have a lot more experience with this.
Up. Oh yeah. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes I'm like next to people who are having an affair, obviously, and I'm like, well, do I turn the TV on to let them know I'm here, or
I don't think they
do
care.
I just let this go? Yeah, exactly. So Arthur drives Peter out to a gas station, which he somehow knows Ricketts will be at.
Yeah, they even have a line, too, from Peter, like, how did you know he was going to be here? But I guess it's a real small town.
Yeah, 1,000 people.
Going to fill up eventually, I guess?
Maybe there's only one gas station in town, and he knows he's low on gas somehow. But
I've had some friends, like I've had a friend in college where he told me the only thing in town was a gas station / Subway, and that was it.
Yeah. Well, maybe once we find out that he's a mystical creature, actually in disguise, it's like, okay, fine,
sure.
So. While Ricketts is pumping gas, Arthur lightly runs into Ricketts' car. Enough to move it, but doubt it has like major damage. Like the car is still drivable. And when Ricketts comes to yell at him, he's like, "You dumb idiot!" and complains. He sticks his head in Arthur's truck to get into Arthur's face. And Arthur rolls the window up and traps Ricketts. And then quickly duct tapes his mouth shut.
Yeah, it's a fun scene.
No explosion. Sorry, Tim.
No, I don't know. I don't think there is any in this movie.
No explosions.
Yeah, no explosions. It's a major hit.
Yeah.
Explode.
So the next bit of action is after they've already been kidnapped. Peter wakes up on a rock one day, and this is the bit of horror I was talking about.
There's a lot of random, by the way, of like you're in one scene and then it just cuts to like a different locale, and I'm waking up again. Like there's. Like, how many days have passed? Like, what is this?
It's a good question. Obviously, more than a couple, considering the growth on Peter's facial hair at the end of the movie.
It must be a real big lake that we're just motorboating around in. That was another thing. Like, here's some more action of them motorboating or rowing to some other location.
Yeah, no, they're in a canoe, and they they motor this thing from one end of the lake to the other. And then he drags the damn canoe across the forest to go into another part of the lake and go again. But then at the end of the movie, Wilf just takes one boat ride to pick up the two guys.
Yeah. So I think at one point,
where did they go?
Dismantles the motor.
Yeah, he does
for no reason.
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, this is the end. That's their final location. Anyway. So back to this one bit of horror that I was talking about. Peter wakes up on a rock on the lakeshore and comes across Arthur skinning the bottom half of Ricketts' leg.
Yeah.
And cauterizing the wound with a flaming tree branch. Apparently Ricketts tried to escape off screen, and Arthur just wasn't going to get him. And Arthur tells
I didn't realize that he tried to escape. That was
he was a line of dialogue. He tried to get away. They always try to get away.
I missed that one. Okay, because I just thought he was finally making that to come to fruition.
Well, then he says to Peter, like, you said you wanted him skinned alive, right? Well, I'm your friendly neighborhood cruel Indian.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like too where he's just he's like, "Oh, what are you gonna do?" Well, I gotta cauterize the wound. What do you think I am? Like, I don't want him to die.
But it's a good little bit of gore. It's a nice special effect.
Yeah, they do show it. I mean, it's a little crazy how he seems to be so complacent about getting his leg cut.
No, he's got like he's got a branch in his mouth. He's screaming like crazy.
He does have the branch in his mouth. I'm trying to remember because at one point he does cut Ricketts' arms free. So I can't remember if that's before or after that.
That's after that because Peter's basically got to drag him around to move because he's delirious from the pain from his leg being skinned.
Yeah. Which, by the way, everybody, Peter has been freed from his bondage for quite a while.
It's really annoying.
Yeah. But again, and to bring this point home, it's like Ricketts, who we'll get to again in side character, who's kind of a bad guy, is the one that has to routinely tell him, like,
what are you doing?
Yeah, like, what the hell is your problem? Like, go do something.
Yeah. So two Mounties, they're not actually Mounties, but all cops are Mounties.
Sure.
Find Peter, Arthur, and Ricketts in the woods, and Arthur shoots the first one in the head, and then gut shots the second, and then brains him with his club. Yeah. Unfortunately, the club impact happens off screen. We just cut to Peter yelling,
Peter going,
no!
Yeah.
Yeah. Sucks.
Yeah.
And then you got Arthur building a sweat lodge. And he and Peter and Ricketts are sweating it out. Arthur makes the lodge extra smoky and does the Billy from Predator move and uses his knife to cut diagonally down his chest.
Right. Yeah. And cuts his pinky off.
Yeah, he cuts his own pinky off and starts mockingly chanted, I'm gonna cut my finger off and make a necklace for your fat fucking white man.
No,
your fat fuck white man. Yeah.
I love this part too because during all this craziness, because Peter's yelling at him, he's doing it wrong because of the smoke and all that kind of stuff. It's not supposed to be smoke based or whatever. Yeah. And then Ricketts is like freaked the hell out, so he starts praying.
That comes afterwards, but yeah.
Right. Well, I'm saying, he does the Lord's Prayer, right? And
yes.
So while he's doing the Lord's Prayer, that's when he starts doing that chant of, I'm going to cut my fingers off and whatever and give it to your God or whatever and all that. Like, it's like, oh, man, that's messed up. Like,
well, then Peter starts freaking out.
Yeah.
And and then Arthur basically shuts him up by just continually shooting his gun into the top of the lodge until he just shuts up. Because you're bothering our prayers.
They have to purify themselves for the next step.
I guess.
Why are they doing this? That's what he says. Because I think he's trying to intimate to him that we skinned him, we did all that kind of stuff. The next step is, I guess, burning down the mill or whatever. So before we do that, we have to purify ourselves. Is kind of the gist I was getting.
They never got quite near the mill, but
no, that's what I was wondering. Is the mill up there? But no, we're just there to look at some scenery. It was gorgeous. Not gonna lie.
True that. Canada, beautiful country. Yeah. So Arthur drags Ricketts up a mountain and threatens to hang him when they reach the top.
Yeah.
Peter gives chase and kicks Arthur down the mountain like John Wick 4 style.
Right.
And then Arthur just gets back up, chases them down, and knocks Peter down even further than he fell.
I don't think you did this justice. I really liked this part.
Please expand.
Yeah, I really loved how Arthur is like fast spider, werewolf, whatever you want to, like he's almost galloping up the hill. Yeah. So it's like he kicks him down. You're like, oh, wow, there he is. He's growing a pair. And then all of a sudden you have the shot of him like he's zooming up that hill like on all fours going up. And you're like, if that dude was coming up all fours like that, all serious, that would be really scary. I'm not gonna lie. Like that's kind of crazy looking.
Yeah.
And then kicks him all the way further.
By the way, Graham Greene, is your height, so he's not like a giant dude.
No,
he's 5'10".
But I think comparatively, who he's with,
to these two guys,
like
he's definitely more intimidating.
I think big. Ricketts might be taller, but clearly he's just a bigger, broader dude too.
That's a good question. I don't know.
I mean, it's possible Ricketts just is scrawnier. Maybe
I gotta find out how tall Colonel Saltai is now. He is taller. You're right. 5'11.5". Got him by an inch.
So there you go. Not that he was towering by any means, but I don't know. That was some really good physical acting, and I was kind of impressed the way he went up that hill.
Yeah, no, he looked great. So Peter eventually catches up to Arthur and Ricketts, and while Arthur is deep in prayer, Peter sneaks away down the mountain with Ricketts, and they fall down most of it.
Yeah.
Once again, John 4 style.
Yep.
When they reach the boat, Arthur is waiting for them, and Peter and Arthur finally fight. And that's where they see that the motor has been taken apart, so they can't. And there's no quick getaway.
Right.
It's a good fight. I especially liked Peter tackling Arthur off a tall rock and into the water.
That's the part I liked. I don't know about the rest of it. The rest of it's just kind of
that was a nice little bit of physical action.
Yeah. He basically, it almost is like a rock kind of slightly protruding upwards, almost rampish style, and he just tackles right into torso and launches them both into the water.
It's not like they went off like Harrison Ford in The Fugitive down the dam, but it was a good sized height.
But it looked practically done. I don't think Peter did
good.
it, but
yeah.
But I think it looked legit. It looked like if you got hit like that off, that would be something.
So Arthur gets the upper hand in the water and starts drowning Peter, and somehow Peter finds Arthur's knife in the water and stabs him. And Peter then grabs Arthur's gun, misses with the first shot, and the gun clicks empty with the second.
Right. But it looks like that was going to be the kill shot.
Right, and that's when Arthur is satisfied that Peter's ready to fight Gil and goes into the lake, sinks, and disappears.
Right. Which I was like, man, it wasn't that much further away than where they already were. How is he sinking that deep? Is that big of a drop off in the depth there? Man, all right.
No, just clearly a mystical character.
Yeah, he has a slight smile to him as he's doing it. And sure.
So what did you give action stunts?
Like a 1.5.
I gave it a 2. I was a little kinder.
Okay.
So that's it for that category.
Yeah.
So, sidekicks. We got some side characters in this movie. So
I guess Wilf is one, and I guess
screw that.
Ricketts is the other, right?
Yeah, let's start talking about Michael Hogan playing Bud Ricketts, the lumber mill manager that Arthur kidnaps.
Yeah,
and I mentioned it, like I love Michael Hogan, especially from Battlestar Galactica as Colonel Saltai.
Yep,
he was great on that show.
Great,
so good.
Good show.
Oh, by the way, I don't know why, but like Arthur occasionally slips into like an Irish accent to mock Bud Ricketts. I'm like, he's not playing it Irish. I don't know why.
I don't know either.
It was weird.
I thought that was odd a couple of times.
He's definitely Canadian. He's saying after stuff.
I don't know. That is a really good point. I did notice that a couple of times from Arthur. Like, wait, why? Is he just assuming like all white people like that are Irish? I don't know.
Right? That's what I'm like. Are all old white people Irish now? God damn it.
I don't know. I mean, he's quick to make a lot of comments about white people. I mean, mostly fair, but yeah.
Yeah, it's just... if he started like mocking me with like an Irish accent or something, like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
Exactly. My favorite Ricketts part, well, there's a couple of them. I love when Ricketts is first with Arthur and Peter in the canoe, and Ricketts asks Peter if he can handle his Indian. Yeah. And Peter just stares and then looks away sheepishly, and Ricketts sarcastically shouts, Well, I am filled with confidence. I loved it.
Everything Ricketts does is actually pretty great.
He is so good in this movie.
I really enjoyed.
I kind of wish there was no Peter and it was just Ricketts.
Right. I like how Ricketts dressed Peter down when Peter confronts him at his mill towards the beginning of the movie, and Ricketts just basically completely owns him and embarrasses him in a cool way. I think everything delivery.
Why don't you do something? What's wrong with you?
Everything at the gas station with him is good. I love everything where it's like you're not tied up. Go run for that. Like I like.
He
all that
literally
stuff.
has to convince him. There are 2 hunters over there. Go and get help.
Yeah.
You nebbish little twat. Like let's
you're
go.
Not tied up. Like
yeah.
I like when he's clearly like wounded and getting delirious.
This is my other favorite part. Yeah.
Yeah, and he starts to
asks for
like
soup.
sing and ask for soup and all this kind of weird, like it's clearly it's good
Beef
stuff.
and barley? Yeah. I don't mind tomato. Toast. Yeah. Toast with the crust cut off, eh?
On the boat where he's clearly like had enough, so he just starts hurling insults at everybody.
Yeah.
Mostly at Peter too.
Yeah. Yeah, like he hates them both, but he really has just like utter disdain for Peter.
Yeah, because I think
just like this movie does.
Yeah, I think he at least understands Arthur. And
he's like, we're both men of action. You shut up. We're gonna talk this out.
Yeah,
like men.
He's being like, hey, I think this is your perspective. Let's get down to it to what you want. Yeah. And I think he looks at Peter as like a bottom feeder. Like you're worse than any of us.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, like I at least he thinks of himself as like I'm doing something. Yes, I make money, but everybody is getting something from this as well. From what I'm doing. What do you get that only helps you?
There's 1,000 people in this town. It survives off this lumber mill. If you don't want me to do this anymore, make people stop using paper products. You know, like you need me, and.
Yeah, and he's legitly, and he also says too, like, I'm doing this to keep my mill at capacity to employ people.
Yeah.
So like, you're kind of like, all right, yeah, I kind of get it, and it's weird because it doesn't seem necessarily about Native American land or whatever indigenous groups' land. It's about a road. Well,
the road to specifically cut down trees on indigenous land.
Yeah, but it's weird that the court case didn't get at the indigenous land part, because then I feel like that would be the winning area to go with.
Which is what they tell him. Like, why didn't you do this? He's like, well, I thought going with the road was the first best way to go for it because its only purpose to exist is to go after indigenous land.
So stupid.
Well, that's what they told him, which I think you're right, yeah.
Yeah, but man, you're a horrible lawyer.
Probably.
Yeah, because like I feel like going for when you go indigenous and you go protected lands, or with that's the kind of route to go with that kind of stuff, like a road.
Anyway,
yeah.
I love Michael Hogan. Surprised he never actually guest starred in the X-Files. His fine Canadian actor. I feel like every Canadian actor did at one point or other.
It is kind of surprising, I have to say. I'm like trying to think, like, was there an episode I missed or something?
It wasn't him.
He's pretty solid in like everything I've seen him in.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a bad bit.
I mean, like literally every Canadian actor appeared in the X-Files at some point. Hell, Terry O'Quinn, who's not Canadian, appeared like twice plus the movie.
Yeah. You know what's sad? Like, never mind.
Okay.
I'm trying to. What's sad is like, I don't know. Like, the only things that they show up for him credits, like for known for type of stuff, is Battlestar Galactica. Like, I'm sure there's got to be other stuff, but it's interesting that's like the thing that shows up.
On IMDb.
Yeah, like that's.
I see they mentioned Red Riding Hood. You saw that movie. Yeah, you remember telling me how bad it was.
Right. I did see that movie. That was terrible. That's kind of what killed her career before she brought it back kind of more recently, especially with
You talking about Amanda Seyfried?
yeah, like I think Monk and stuff is kind of what's kind of brought her back. I feel like that movie is like one of the ones that kind of killed it. But yeah,
Mank, you mean?
Mank. Sorry, my bad, Mank.
Like, was she on an episode of Monk?
My bad.
He's mostly a TV actor. What can I tell you? And that was the biggest TV part he ever had.
That's true.
He was great on some episodes of Fargo. But I'm always happy to see him anytime I see him.
General Slade Wilson from Smallville. 2 episodes.
Episode of Supernatural. My dude is always working in Canada.
Got an episode of Psych.
Yeah.
You know you love yourself some Psych.
It was a good show.
Yeah, man. I mean, he's good, and
he's great in this movie.
He was great in this movie. Really was.
So moving on, you got Wilf, the leader of the tribe that Peter represents.
Yeah.
He's played by Floyd Red Crow Westerman, famously played Albert Hostine on The X-Files. Can't tell if he approves of Arthur doing what he's doing. When Peter begs for him to make Arthur stop, he responds with, "The influence of an elder can be overrated."
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
Whatever that... He says it a few times. He seems to be so complacent. I don't know about complacent, but he just seems to kind of like, yeah, whatever, you know. He doesn't seem to be all that broken up about anything.
This is happening.
Yeah. So I don't...
What's really weird is the way he just appears out of nowhere at one point in this movie. Just all of a sudden he's there with them in the woods.
He also disappears randomly.
Right after he's done telling the story about Wasaya-Jack.
Yeah. And then Peter's calling him after that because he's just gone.
Yeah.
It's a weird bit. Like I mean I think I'm pretty sure he can only kind of really do this kind of a part.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, but it's
So anyway, let's get into
this. He's not bad in what he's doing. It's just a weird part. The character is really weirdly written.
Yeah, because I'm like, wait, is he mystical or not, or what? Is he even actually there? I don't know.
Is he giving the girl the directions? I don't know.
So let's get into the part where he appears and tells the story of Wasaya-Jack.
Yeah.
Like I said, he's there all of a sudden in the woods with them. And he tells them, I need to tell you a story about Wasaya-Jack, the deceiver. And he tells Peter and Ricketts, although Ricketts is basically delusional at this point. And he's like, Wasaya-Jack was told to teach man how to live the right way, how to be able to get along with the creatures of the forest. But Wasaya-Jack made quarrels. He stained the ground with blood. They told him no more, but he didn't listen. Wasaya-Jack had to be stopped. There was too much blood. He had become a victim of his own stupid ways. He had lost himself. He had to be stopped. And then he disappears.
And so, what's so weird about that, because to me at first, the way I'm interpreting that is
Arthur is
using
Wasaya-Jack.
that metaphor to talk about Arthur.
Right, but he's like letting you know that Arthur is actually Wasaya-Jack. Yeah.
But I guess Arthur is controlled by the girl, so...
No, Arthur is the girl. It's the same person.
Okay. Which still doesn't really make sense to the story then. I mean...
Well, he's a mystical character, so he appears in many different forms. He is the deceiver. But my question is
the deceiver or the girl?
Girl is Wasaya-Jack. It's a different form because Arthur just disappears. It's still Arthur. Arthur is that girl. Arthur and Polly are the same. Are Wasaya-Jack.
Okay, so she's being this mythical character, or the mythical character is both.
Think of both. It's like Loki, just being in different forms.
Gotcha.
But like he's like Arthur's just like Wilf is like, yeah, he's got to be stopped. Like any clues on how to do that, buddy? And like, nope, and just goes away. Like,
yeah.
Well, what the hell was that for?
It's your kind of God, and why can't you help me with it? Kind of deal, I guess.
Like, thanks for the backstory, but you didn't tell me how to stop him. You just said he's got to be stopped.
It's gone too far, or whatever.
I'm not even sure if it's actually Wilf or if that's just another projection by Waseka Jack.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Especially because how did randomly come across them? How did it find them? I mean, how did the police end up finding them? But
well,
just coming across their campfire, maybe, I guess, on the lake. I don't know.
The Mounties that came and they got killed. Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, at one point, Bud says, like, I can hear my cats out there. We're not that far from his cut site. So maybe they were looking in that area. I don't know. But yeah, it doesn't make any sense, really.
Yeah.
Especially how large the forest is. And these two guys were just out by themselves. So like,
it seems like it's a really large area.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because they the way the plane had to get there, the way there's so much jet setting around from place to place on the lake through this boat. It seems pretty huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's all I got to say about Wilfs. I want to say a special shout out to Tom, Wilf's right-hand man, who speaks for all Americans watching Canadian film, who says all police are Mounties. And another special shout out to the nameless native who asks, so what the hell was this all for? When Peter and Wilf are getting arrested at the end of the movie. Just like this dude in the hat. And I'm like, yeah, man, I don't know.
I don't know either. Yeah, right? Like, what?
So I gave the side characters a 2. I don't know what you gave.
I gave it a 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I gave the movie an 8. You gave it a 7.5.
Yeah, 7.5.
I'm probably gonna stick with my 8 for my rankings because I think it's it's exactly in that category of Pet Sematary and The Vagrant, but I'll put it below both of those movies.
Right.
Of like this is one. It's not a very good movie, but this is great performance you got to check out if you're a fan.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I'm cool with it. In some ways, it really wasn't a horror movie.
No.
I kind of have it at a so where do I have it? I have it right under Raising Cain.
I hope you have it under Raising Cain.
Yeah, I have it under Raising Cain. Remember, I only gave Raising Cain a 7.5.
Yeah. I'll never forgive you for that.
Yeah, I have it over Dr. Giggles, Lawnmower Man, Twin Peaks, and Split Second.
Yep.
So you have it at an 8.
Yeah.
So you have it tied with Pet Sematary 2 and The Vagrant.
I have it underneath both those movies. I would.
Both of those movies? Okay.
Yeah. And while I have it ranked higher here than Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, I guarantee I'm probably going to watch Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me again before I watch this movie again. I know you never will.
No, I won't. Yeah, I really won't. I hate it.
Twin Peaks.
Twin Peaks. Yeah, no. Twin Peaks I loathe. Not
you
not
made
for
that
me.
you made that point very clear.
Yes, right? I think so.
So sadly, I could not find any info on this movie's budget or its box office, so I have nothing else to add as far as
actually
extra.
we both have Clearcut 12th.
There you go.
Yeah, with slightly different rankings. Yeah.
So Tim, what are we watching next week?
So really, there's nothing. I guess because the Canadianness of it all, there's just not enough there.
Not enough in what there?
Like information, fun facts, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's weird. So, what are we watching next week, Tim?
So we're
got 4 movies left.
We got 4, and I'm kind of I'm in the thinking of like let's kind of hit all of the best stuff for the very end.
Okay.
So, or at least the stuff that I know the most, all that kind of stuff. So I'm thinking Innocent Blood.
Exciting. I've never seen it.
Yeah, I've never seen it, so I'm definitely curious. It is a rental, so sorry everybody. But Marie is a vampire with a thirst for bad guys. And she fails to properly dispose of one of her victims, a violent mob boss. She bites off more than she can chew and faces a new immortal danger.
Well, let's the real highlights of this movie. 1, directed by John Landis.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yep.
2, we're going to have Anthony LaPaglia, this Australian man, doing an Italian accent again, which
Robert
always
Loggia.
Always hilarious to hear Anthony LaPaglia do Italian accent.
Yeah.
While he looks Italian, my man could not always sound more Australian. Just like it always slips out.
Yep.
And it's really funny. Yep. Robert Loggia. Chaz Palminteri.
Yeah.
Kim Coates. Angela Bassett. Luis Guzman.
Tony Sriraco? Do I know that guy?
You never watched The Soprano.
That's where I know him, though. I know Sopranos well enough, though, to know his face. Okay, yep. John Luis Guzman. Oh man.
Yeah, he played Tariq Rico played Paulie Walnuts, and yeah.
I'm a little worried.
Don't.
It's still a vampire thing, right? So that's kind of how it's still a horror-ish. But I guess it says action comedy crime.
Vampire decides to go after the mob because she feels less bad again, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, I've seen premises of that before, where vampires are purposely going over or after the bad people or whatever, right? Or it's like a supernatural version of Dexter.
I was gonna say it's Red Harvest or Jimbo or
right.
Fistful of Dollars, but with vampires. Yeah,
right.
Just gonna go play two gangs off each other.
It's
while
a premise we've seen before.
Yeah.
It's just the shtick of a vampire attitude.
Yeah, which I'm down for.
Yeah, and then I'm excited for that because then that means like we end with some pretty awesome movies to end the season with, Death Becomes Your Candyman and Bram Stoker. So that's pretty awesome.
Yep.
All right, man. You got anything else to add here?
Not a thing.
All right. That is it for us. Please show your support for the podcast by leaving a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, or wherever you happen to listen to the show. Also, sharing is caring. Be sure to follow us on the social media to get the latest show updates. You can contact us by emailing at filmbrochamp@gmail.com or find us by searching for #FilmBroChamp. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Film Bro Champ podcast. Peace out, everyone.
That's oral tradition.